mission for you. I left something at the Maastricht space station. It might be a little dangerous, so be careful and good luck.
That was pretty cool. Okay, I gotta set up this phone. What? I keep seeing those comments. You guys are chirping me for my hair. I've never had longer hair in my whole life. I'm trying to grow it out, and I have no idea how to deal with it. So, to get you guys even more riled up, I'm wearing my wife's headband for this video. Oh God, it looks so stupid. We'll just go with it. Okay, ROG Phone 7 and the ROG Phone 7 Ultimate. These are the most powerful phones on the market right now. These things are stacked like you would expect from ASUS's ROG line. They have amazing screens, optional coolers, best-in-class performance. So the Snapdragon 8 Gen 2 is the fastest chip in the Android space, and it gets to flex extra hard inside an ROG device. They made some tweaks to the graphite layer and their vapor chamber, and now the ROG Phone 7 will sustain 60 frames per second in ultra-demanding games indefinitely. Like, you can play demanding games for like 2 to 3 hours straight, and it'll still be pegged at 60 frames per second. The temperature will be a little bit warm, like 40, maybe 41 Celsius, but 60 frames per second. The screens on ROG phones are usually really good. They're bright, they're super fast, and they're just awesome for games, right? Now this year, the res and refresh rate hasn't changed. It's still super fast at 165 Hertz and still has super low input latency. Like, the screen is very responsive. But this year, they've bumped the brightness. It can hit 1,000 nits outdoors in high brightness mode, and it can supposedly do 1,500 nits peak for a small section of the screen. Now, because these are ROG phones, they have an optional cooler. So this year, the device is called the Aero Active Cooler 7. These new phones are compatible with last year's cooler, the Aero Active Cooler 6, but this year's model is upgraded. It does have 4 buttons on the back and has a fan again to push air around, and it uses Peltier tech to actually keep the device cold. Like, when it's plugged up and it uses power, it's cold, like fridge cold. It's included with the Ultimate model, but it's an optional accessory for the regular ROG Phone 7. Now, the Ultimate model has an extra trick up its sleeve. So there's a port on the back of this device that they call the Aero Active Portal, and this thing can open up to reveal a series of copper fins. And the purpose of this is that when you have the cooler attached, that portal will automatically open up and it'll blow cold air through those copper fins and out the top. It's just a more effective way to cool the device. On the regular ROG Phone 7, it doesn't have that portal, so you're just cooling the back plate of the device, like previous versions of the ROG phones. The new cooler, though, has a different air stream. There's cool air blowing through the regular, like the backside, but there's also a secondary stream that runs to the front of the device to kind of cool the front glass. It is effective, but it's a pretty chunky device, and I think it's a fairly large ask to get someone to be like, hey, cool your phone with this thing that's the size of another phone. But it does have an extra feature this year. So now the Aero Active Cooler 7 has a speaker inside, and they call it a subwoofer. I think that's a bit of a stretch. It's not a subwoofer. It does benefit the lower frequencies though. So in games and when you're watching media, it's a fairly noticeable difference when you use it. There's RGB lighting on the back of these phones, of course. It's an Asus ROG product. On the regular ROG Phone 7s, there's a light strip looking piece as well as a light up logo. The black one has a kind of pixelated logo. The white one has a more solid logo. And then on the Ultimate version, it doesn't have that LED strip because it's got that cooling portal instead. But it does have that small OLED panel that we've seen in previous generations. And this is a fully customizable OLED screen. You can do a ton of stuff with it in their software. There's other software features that Asus has added for gamers. Now, they've always had a slew of gaming features in their Game Genie overlay, but this year, I feel like some of these are bordering like cheats or hacks. So the first one is their background mode. So for certain games like idle games, you can have the game running, still connected online, and you can make the game be running macros and stuff while not actually in the game. Like you can leave this game, it'll be running in the background, you could be browsing the web or doing something else, and it'll still run the game, clicking and doing things. It's useful, but maybe a little too useful. The second thing that I think is a little questionable is their new Xsense feature. So in supported games, you will have pop-ups or notifications mid-game that tell you when certain things are happening. So in MOBAs, if there are important camps up or certain events happening, you'll get an on-screen pop-up. And in some games, that is incredibly useful. Now I get it, these are just mobile games, and I don't know how sweaty people get about it, but that feels like it's a bit of a cheat. Okay, these both still come with a 65-watt charger, both the regular and the Ultimate. The rear-facing camera system is pretty much unchanged from last year and is a great system, but the front-facing camera this year is improved. It's now a better sensor, and I think the images just look cleaner on the selfie cam. Now, I don't know the pricing of these devices at the time of shooting this. I imagine they'll be similar to last year's ROG Phone 6 products, but there's one thing that I thought I should mention. The Kunai 3, which is a controller that has existed for a while for the ROG phones, made by Asus. If you want to use the Kunai case that allows you to side mount the controllers like this, it's an imperfect fit. Like it works and the playability is just fine, but if you'll look at the back of the device, you'll see that the camera hump is misaligned slightly. So if you have a Kunai 3 or if you want to get one, I don't think it really fits the way that it should, but everything else works. Okay. There you have it, the ROG Phone 7. It's the most decked out phone I've used this year. It also gets 2 major operating system upgrades as well as 4 years of security updates, which is a nice bump up from the previous generations. Okay, we're done. I can take off the hairband. Stupid looking.